In this part of the photography review show, we're going to be looking at landscape photographers. Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of our photography review show. For those who don't know me, my name is Jakub. I'm a professional photographer based in West Sussex, here in the south of England. And for the last 2 or 3 years, I've been reviewing photos of my colleagues and friends. And that's why we decided here at the Clever Photographer that that's what we're gonna do for our photography community. It's been super successful, so over the last several weeks, we actually received many photos from many photographers, and we're doing super well. And this is the reason why we now have to divide the show between 3 different parts, focusing on different styles of photography. Also, what we have to do quite often is to take the pictures you send us and choose 2 or 3 of the best ones and review them, because the time doesn't allow us to review all of the photos. But either way, it's a lot of fun and we really enjoy doing it. Now, before we're gonna jump into the reviews, we have few things to go through. First of all, there is still standing the overall rating we share at the end of each of the photographer. We're giving us stars from 1 star to 5 stars, and 1 star basically means going back to the basics, starting from the beginning, and then 5 star means you're ready to be shared, sold, and hired, and the pictures are that good. So that adding lots of new fun to the actual photography review. Also, we have to thank again Clever Photographer for putting us on. All the tools are there. Make sure you head to their website cleverphotographer.com and check out some of the tools I created there, like Photoshop brushes, Lightroom brushes, skies, presets, and lots of other things. Finally, as always, we want to ask you to make sure that you like, subscribe, and comment under this video so we can continue doing this show. And to finish it off, again, there is a set of news, and basically it's something really exciting, something what we were planning to do for quite a few weeks now, and we're gonna start from this week. So in order to put everything together and in one place, instead of sharing at the Facebook and YouTube, we decided that we're gonna create a Facebook group. The Facebook group is called Clever Photographer Academy, and that's basically gonna bring all of this together and hopefully allow us to spend more time with the community of photographers who are willing to learn more and improve their photography. So starting from today, you can head to Facebook, look for Clever Photographer Academy group, make sure you hit there a button to join. You will fill up a little questionnaire and then you will be allowed in. And the whole idea of this group is to share your photos and receive a feedback on them even throughout the week rather than just on these Mondays. Also, another thing is to bring a picture you are not sure what to do with, you're not sure about how to edit it or what went wrong, and we will try to help you there on this. And of course, ask questions. So it's gonna be a lots of fun, and it's definitely something what you should do. So again, head to the Facebook, look for Clever Photographer Academy and join us there, because we're just starting, and usually these things are even more fun when you start on the beginning and when you really set yourself in. And that brings us nicely together with the page we have at Clever Photographer. The address is cleverphotographer.com/review, and that will be the hub of all the review shows. You will see the plan there, the program. Usually for 4 or 5 weeks ahead, you will be able to send us pictures for any of the 5 weeks. You will be able to see what we're doing and find out more information there. So usually the journey will start from the cleverphotographer.com/review. That's where you will be able to find the Facebook group. That's where you will be able to find the dates. And that's where you will be able to find the places where you can share your photos and receive even more feedback. So lots of excitement stuff heading our way. We are super excited to bring this again a little bit further and have even more fun with you guys. But now, without any further ado, let's jump straight into it and start with the actual reviews. And here we are with the landscape photographers. We have 6 landscape photographers to go through this week, so it's gonna be a lot of fun and we're gonna jump straight into it. But just for those who are just about starting with landscape photography or need a little hint, when I started with landscape photography, I was kind of looking around, watching some YouTube videos and going through some of the blog posts and so on, and really there was one course I bought, or like a class, which really helped me to put things together. And I have to say, and I'm not in any way sponsored with any of the products or photographers which I'm going to mention today throughout the show, so don't worry that I'm trying to sell you anything what doesn't work. It's just some stuff which I used in the past and it really worked for me. And the one for the landscape photographers is a landscape masterclass by a photographer called Serge Ramery. Serge is actually a photographer which is based in the United States, but originally he's Parisian from France. And I thought his landscape photography masterclass, partly recorded in New Zealand and partly in France, is superb. It really helped me. And what I really enjoy on that class is that once I started to follow it and really do it, so let's say there is a class about long exposure, and so I took the camera and I took the filter and I went to the river and I done exactly what Serge was explaining, and it worked. I brought back home the camera, I upload the photos into the computer, and suddenly it worked. Where many times before, either it was too confusing, so there was too many information shared, or there was too many extra tools involved, and it just never really worked for me before. But this is something what really helped me. So if you guys looking for some ways to start with landscape photography, this is definitely a class I would suggest. And I think I have it here somewhere. Let's have a look. If I just bring it over here, give me 1 second. Yeah, I brought it here. So it's actually on the website called photosearch.com. It's called Landscape Masterclass. Currently, it's running for $57. You can buy different packages at the website, but I think definitely look out for this one. It's super handy and really something what worked for me as a landscape photographer. Now, going back to the actual photography, we have 6 photographers again to go through, and we're gonna start with Carolyn. So Carolyn, I believe that I've seen your pictures before. I was kind of looking through the past dates and I found some of them, and they are always really atmospheric and charismatic, so I really like that, and I can see that you send us some new ones. So first of all, I have to say, as a first impression, I really enjoy the white balance. Those are definitely colors I love. There is something about this really kind of rich yellow mixed with the blue. So the overall feel of all of them, I really like. I really like this kind of combination. It's part of my photography signature, and I really like what you've done here. Then, of course, when I look at a little bit closer at the subjects, this is quite a nice subject. It's nicely done, although kind of looking at it a little bit closer, it's a little bit blurry, but we'll come to that during the technical part. And this one is quite nice as well. It's a little bit... I had to really kind of look what it is, and I guess it's some kind of statues or sculptures of the soldiers with the sun behind. So the first impression, there was just a lot happening on that actual picture, but I quite like them. So 2 pictures like that. Again, I love the white balance, I love the colors, I love the saturation, and I always like how your pictures are kind of dramatic in a good way. So well done on that. So Caroline, when it comes to technical part of the picture, let's have a look at the first one. First thing which kind of really strikes me on the first one is the noise I can see on the picture. So when I go a little bit closer to the detail, I'm sure you can see it as well. So there are lots of noise on these part of the pictures. There's a color noise as well as noise. So it would be interesting to know what ISO you use. And you use 640, which is quite interesting at this scene, because with that much sun coming and that much light in the actual scene, you shouldn't need to use such a high ISO in order to capture this picture. Also, your f-stop is 4.5, which I think you wouldn't really need. Again, in this scene, I think if you would stick to something like 7, 8, 9, it would be perfectly fine. And your shutter speed could be much slower than 1/4000 of the second. So just kind of put together a little bit the settings to avoid, for example, noise like this will really help you. Otherwise, you're definitely shooting at the right time of the day. I mean, the light is stunning. So what were you using? Nikon camera and 18 millimeters, which I would, because it's kind of square crop, which I'm starting to feel that maybe is your signature, because all the pictures you shared with us were like a square crop. So that's quite interesting. Although when you do these square crops, I'm not sure if you need to use such a wide lens like 18 millimeters, but maybe you did. Who knows? Anyway, so technically this one, there is a lot of noise, and it's because of the high ISO, and I think it would be easily fixed. If you should definitely join us at the Clever Photographer Academy group, which we just starting this week. And that's where we can maybe really look at how to avoid the noise and how to set up your camera differently and share some experiences there. Moving on to the next picture, when it comes to technical point of view, although when we're gonna talk about the artistic feel, I think it's really nicely done. I think it's actually blurry. First, okay, so it's kind of leaning towards one side, which is not a big deal. That's easily fixable. But I don't see any sharp parts of the photo. So that's a little bit a shame. I think your ISO is better and your shutter speed is better as well. Again, similarly, I don't think you need to be on 4.8 f-stop. Maybe in this case more than the other one, because you would want to create some kind of blur behind. But I'm just surprised that it's quite blurry. I think it's a little bit of a shame. So I don't know if you're using tripod, maybe with the remote release, or what to do in order to fix it. Again, time of the day is right. I think the exposure is right. It's just on picture I'm looking at, and that could be also the JPEG compression. The picture looks blurry to me, so that's a little bit of a shame. So that's some points on this one, and the noise on this one, which is really high. I'm quite surprised for 640 ISO. When I use that ISO on my camera, I'm using Sony a7R4, it doesn't give me as much noise as I can see here. So it's quite interesting. Also, another thing, maybe it's something to do with the post-processing. Sometimes when we really push the pictures to their limit, lots of kind of artifacts comes out, and a noise usually is one of them. Artistically, so out of the two, composition wise, I prefer this one, and it's maybe also because lately I'm more focusing on a kind of cleaner composition, cleaner message, and kind of trying to always figure out how to really bring my main subject out, which this is clearly done. There is quite nice long exposure done with the water, so it looks quite lovely. I mean, you're looking at this picture, you know right away what is it about. Where in this case, again, like I said, lots happening. There's absolutely stunning sunset, and I think you definitely know how to do that. But then there is these boys standing, which you really have to take your time to kind of realize what it is, because on this picture, on this one you can't see it because of the sunset, and then on these it's a bit confusing. This is an example of us photographing something what we are familiar with, or we've been there, and we find difficult to bring ourselves in the shoes of someone who's never been there. So because we've been there, we obviously know exactly what it's been or what it is. So the subject and the message is much clearer to us than it would be somebody who would see the picture without your explanation. So that's just a suggestion, but nothing else. I think it's really lovely. Personally, I would step back just a little bit to get a little bit more space around them, just to get a little bit more breathing space. And the question would be how your raw file look, if maybe you could crop it just a little bit differently. But in overall, artistically, I really like both of them. I like the feel of them, and it's just the composition on this one is a little bit more straightforward, and lots happening here, but I wouldn't be too worried about it. Moving on to post-processing, so white balance, loving it already, I said, so we don't have to comment on that. I would be quite interesting to see if you could maybe darken these figurines just a little bit in order to remove some of the noise. You could also try some of the noise removing software to see if that could help you a little bit. But in overall, I think the post-processing is done quite well. I think here the blue is heading towards kind of turquoise color, which for a normal viewer would start to be on the point of unnatural look, but together with the yellow it works quite nicely, so I wouldn't be worried. I think your shadows, your highlights are fine. I think it's nice and strong. It's very good, and I quite like it. I wouldn't add anything to it. So in overall, Caroline, your overall a rating for these two pictures, I'm gonna give you 3, because I think you're well on track with your photography. I think you're doing super well. It's just now a question of trying back and forwards what work, playing a little bit more with the setting of the camera. It would be quite interesting to know if you're shooting manual, or if you using like aperture priority, or how you set up your camera, just to avoid these little things like the noise. And then definitely look at the picture and see why is it blurry on mine, or if it's blurry on yours as well. and just see how to be able to fix it, maybe by spot focusing just on the main subject and so on. So Carolyn, thank you so much for sharing your photos. Make sure you join us at the Facebook group, and also if you have a moment, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel where we post these videos, so we can keep creating videos like this. Moving on, we have Ilona and her pictures. So Ilona, we have two pictures here, and they are both on a kind of wildlife / landscape feel. And let's have a look at them. So straight away, the first impression. So I really love this one. I think that's a lovely, lovely picture, probably from like a South Africa or some kind of safari. It looks very nice. It's very atmospheric and very interesting. And then on this one, I like this whole foreground up till the sun. I think it's something to do with the crop. I think how it's cropped. Quite often when it comes to landscape photography or even painters, so we suggest to keep the sky at least 1/3 of the photo, and here is just little kind of bit on the top, which I completely understand that if you would want to fit all of that in, it would be completely different crop and dimension of the photo. However, it's just the first impression, it comes across a little bit unnatural, which follows the rules of the composition, where the kind of really basic rule is that you do 2/3 of the land, 1/3 of the sky on your picture. So just to kind of explain, in your case, it would look, that's just the explanation. It would look something like this. So that's one composition rule which is used. Or the second one is 2/3 of the sky and 1/3 of the land, just to be clear on what can be done and what I really mean. But that has nothing to do with your picture, so let's get out from it. Let's reset it, and let's talk more about your picture. So let's jump into the technical parts of the photography. So technically, I think this is the right time of the day. I can see the golden color kind of popping in. The animals and everything looks very sharp, so that's really good. I would be interested what f-stop you use. f4.0. That's quite interesting. So, and you use 210 millimeters. 210 millimeters. So you must have some kind of extension or something, because your lens was 40 to 150. Interesting. Anyway, everything looks sharp. The exposure looks good. It's a right time of the day, and I don't see any really technical mistakes on the actual photos, or on this one anyway. Where did the other disappear? Oh, we lost the other picture. I see it. Where on this one, let's have a look. This one on my screen looks just a little bit over processed. It just looks a little bit not sharp. It's starting to be a little bit kind of artifacty, where this part is all sharp and everything. But again, shot at the right time of the day with a lovely long exposure created by, let's have a look, 1.3 of a second. So that's great as well. It's looking stunning. And technically, I can't really add anything to one or the other. I think they're both well captured. Artistically, so when it comes to composition, this one is touch not balanced because of the pond. But what more I think is one of my things when it comes to composition and this kind of composition, I really try to avoid these large foreground elements, large confusing foreground element. Basically, it's something what we call it, and it's usually pieces of tree or the whole trees or lampposts, cars, people, buildings, which are popping from the sides of the picture and look really confusing. I don't know if I have an example here, but let's say there would be just a piece of tree here, or there will lamppost, just a part of lamppost poking here. And that's definitely this part here. So for me, for example, it would be a cleaner composition if the thing wouldn't be there. So something like this. Suddenly, nothing is really confusing here. That's just one of the rules of the composition, and you could easily just remove this in a Photoshop or just shift the crop a little bit, one thing, or you could have moved with the camera. But otherwise, I think it's stunning. The animals coming towards water. I think there is lots of this kind of dust and fog happening, and it's otherwise well balanced, and the message is very clear, focusing on the wildlife. I think this is very, very nice. Moving on the next one, it's a stunning landscape. It's a beautiful sunset. And I think the long exposure looks really good. It's just when I look at it like this, it really seemed to be a really pushed when it comes to the post-processing. I see lots of soft edges. I wonder why. I wonder if you may be ISO 64 as well. What you're using? Olympus. You getting? I used to use Olympus D350, I think, and actually that camera used to do that to me a lot, especially in the shadows and in the darker spots of the picture. It used to give me lots of this kind of soft looking artifacts like I can see between the water. But in overall, I think nice foreground element. Then the waterfalls are quite nice, beautiful sunset. Again, if I would have to touch up on the composition, something what I told you on the beginning to do with the actual sky being a little bit more dominant. But otherwise, it's a lovely, lovely picture. And I don't think I would do much more differently there. On this one, when it comes to post-processing, I think I told you already about the crop. So personally, I would probably crop it a little bit. Let's see if we just do this. Maybe I would do a little bit more dodge and burn just to kind of highlight some parts of the photo. So maybe, something more like this, just to create even deeper contrast between the different parts of the photo. You can do a little bit of more of brighter areas and darker areas just to create a little bit more contrast. I also think that you could kind of put a little bit of the dark on the foreground, because that's not really the most interesting part of the photo. The most interesting part of the photo is this. And in fact, let's just try. If I would take the water away completely, how would it look? Because this looks also really nice. I understand that it makes sense for you because you've been there, that the animals were coming towards water, but this is just as strong. And in fact, if we would do like a panoramatic crop, which should be something like this. This is almost a picture you would print and put in your bedroom or in your living room, because it's really stunning. I love it. So Ilona, this is stunning picture. And we were just kind of playing around. There was nothing wrong with the post-processing. I was just kind of show you what else could be done with the picture. Mostly because sometimes when we look at the picture, because we've been there, we only see one or two ways to do it. And because I wasn't there, maybe I was able to push it a little bit in a different direction. Saying that, I also think it would look great black and white. Something like this with a little bit of clarity. Yeah, I think it would also look really cool. Yeah, with a little bit more of the contrast. It looks also really nice black and white. And moving on this one, post-processing wise, as I say, I just see the softness. I think the white balance is touch off. And so let's have a look. What would it do if we would just go for auto? No. Interesting. Yeah, there is lots of kind of, there is a huge dynamic range, obviously, with lots of brightness coming from the top and then the dark areas. So sometimes it's a bit tricky to put together two colors. For example, we have the white on the water, and then we have the yellow from the sun, and to blend them together, sometimes it's not really easy. I would be interested if you have captured this as just one photo for a long exposure, or as a part of the HDR where you would focus on your darker spots and the lighter spots and then the long exposure and blend them together, if you would maybe not for the future get a better result. Ilona, anyway, in overall rating, I'm gonna give you 3 stars because you're definitely on the track. I think the first one is definitely ready for the portfolio with a little bit of editing, and the second one, I am not I don't think it's ready for your portfolio yet. I think there could be few more things done a bit differently, but in overall, great job, well done, thank you very much. And if you have a time, make sure you join us on our new Facebook group, Clever Photographer Academy, where we can talk more about photography throughout the week, not just on these Mondays. But overall, thank you very much. Moving on to the next photographer, we have Jackie, and Jackie sent us 2 pictures, and let's jump straight to them. Jackie, this one I absolutely love. I love this one. I was just going through the pictures earlier, and I think this is one of my favorite pictures of the week. Autumn is here. What is not to love? Together with this really nice romantic scene with the water in the foreground and the little hut at the back. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Stunning picture. And on the next one, this is more like a snapshot from holidays, to be honest. It's a shame that the people are there. It's a lovely sunset, although there is not much happening in the sky. The birds look good on it. I quite like that. Also, there is a really big foreground, which is not really that interesting. And I can see some sensor dust here as well. So we will look at this one throughout the rating, but this one I absolutely love. So let's jump straight into it. Technically, so starting with this one, let's have a look if we have some details. So using Nikon D750 with Tamron 70 to 200. That's a lovely lens, very fast as well. So in this case, you were using ISO 125 with f16 and 1/10 of a second. I would be interesting, why did you go for the f16? If there was any thought behind, because I think in this scene, reckoning that you would be focusing either on the rocks here or at the back, I think something like f11 or even 8/9 would be more than enough. And that way you could maybe bring down the ISO and have a little bit longer shutter speed. But in overall, it's still very, very lovely. I think there are bits and pieces, even with the f16, which are a little bit blurry. And that could be also with the movement and so on. But just when I kind of focus, and it's a shame that it's not the greatest quality, but it's just a compression from RAW to JPEG. And I think there are parts which don't look exactly sharp to me. Also, if you would have stand your camera on a tripod and have a little release, if you could actually do a little bit of long exposure, it would help to the water. Even though you got some of it with the 1/10 of a second, if you would have like a half a second, it would look even cooler. And I think this scene wouldn't be, it wouldn't be that easy to capture that way, because maybe you would have to capture one picture to get the sharpness in the trees, and you would have to capture one picture with the long exposure in the water and then blend them together, but the result would be stunning. But the result is stunning anyway. I think technically it's well done and great. Moving on this one, technically, so it's the right time of the day. I'm trying to find out if you were going for the kind of silhouette look with these people, or you were going for a kind of sunset look. I think it's a little bit in between, because we get details on this foreground, thankfully, because that would be a lot of black otherwise. But in overall, technically, you also getting some lens kind of blur and artifacts here, which is normal. Quite sometimes when we pointing directly to the camera, you can kind of, it can happen. So that's that. So talking about technically, it looks sharp. It's a good time of the day. The exposure is right. I think the sun is captured quite nicely. Let's see on the white. There is a details in the sun, which is quite nice. I really like the kind of decent starburst around it, which is probably caused by f16. So it's nicely done. So technically, it's that. So there is a little bit of this artifact, and then there is a sensor dust here, which I'll show you in post-processing how to remove that, but that's a little bit of a shame. Moving on the artistic feel, I have absolutely nothing to add to this one. It's great. The composition is great. It's a lovely time of the day, clear message, and this is like a postcard photo. So well done on that one. Moving on this one, I don't like the people there, if I have to be honest. I think they wouldn't need to be there. I think your foreground is way too big, and it's not that it's way too big, it's just way too big because it's not interesting. It's a black, half of your picture is black sand beach probably, which you can't really recognize what it is. And if you would print this, it's just this part wouldn't really look that good. I mean, you could see if you could kind of maybe crop and get, let's say, something like this. And I think that's already better. Again, coming back to earlier when I was talking about kind of composition for landscape photography, the rule of third kind of tell us that for scenes like this, you either keep 2/3 of your ground and 1/3 of the sky, which in this case wouldn't really work. Or you do the opposite, where you keep 2/3 of a sky and 1/3 of a ground, which I think would work better here. But there would have to be some other elements removed and work around. So out of the two, I prefer this one. I'm sure you can judge it. This one needs a little bit more work for the future. Moving on to post-processing. So first of all, when we in this picture right away here, let me just reset it. So sensor dust, which are these little black spots. When you hear in a Lightroom, there is actually a tool which we can use. It's called Healing Brush. And there is a little check icon which is called Visualize Spots. So when I click on that, you can see how it actually showed me the spots. And it's really as simple as just clicking on one, clicking on two. It seems like there is one little one here. And that seems to be it. Maybe one little one here, there. And when I'm happy with it, I just click on the check again and bam, they are gone. So that was really easy. And what else did we wanted to do here? We already done that. Or just remove you could use the same tool to try to see if you can actually remove this little lens thing. And yeah, that helps. So that was also easy fix. And that's pretty much it. I think the white balance for this picture is actually quite nice. Oh, there's one more thing I wanted to touch. And that's, I can see, it's almost like from your brushing. I can see the leftovers from the brushing. When I really zoom in, you can see it looks like a brush. It looks like you maybe worked on a sun in either Photoshop or whatever post-processing you're using, and you can see the leftovers. And if it's not a brush, it just looks very unnatural at this part. So again, something to maybe look at and focus on. So that's this one. On this one, nothing much to add. What I would do, maybe a stronger vignette to kind of bring the attention more inside, simply by doing something like this. I would maybe do a little bit more contrast, bring down the exposure, and actually add the exposure more locally. So we could do something like this here. And then add maybe radial gradient on the actual building, you know, something like this. And then we could do some dodge and burn. So adding bright part and dark parts on the actual picture to maybe add a little bit more contrast. So the contrast, there are two kinds of contrast. There is a color contrast, which works great here. And then there is a brightness contrast. And if we just do a little bit of darkening, we will create more of the contrast on the actual picture. So just something like this, just to be a little bit more interesting, but generally I really like the picture, so not much to add. So Jackie, today, if it wouldn't have been this picture, if you would send me another picture like this, I would actually give you 4 stars. But because of this picture, it will have to be 3 stars today. I think you're super on track, but I think now really your point is to focus on the balance, to make sure that you can balance and consistency, to make sure that you can keep creating picture like this over and over again. If you need little help with it, again, coming back to my friend Serge Rameli and his landscape masterclass, if I can just show you. It costs $57. I'm not sponsored by him, but it's something I used when I started, and I think that class is really worth the money, and it could help you to move a little bit forward on some of the skills. Moving on to the next photographer, we have a Stevie Brooks, Stevie from the Southern Lens Photography. Stevie sent us several pictures in the past, and it's always joy to see them. So let's jump straight into them. Stevie, we have 2 pictures from you. And I feel like I've seen this picture before, but I have definitely not seen this one because I love this one. I think it's a stunning capture. As you know, I'm a huge fan of dramatic, saturated, moody photos. And you have it all here, including the reflection, including the really nice warmth. And I love this one. And I love this one as well with the kind of leading line. As I said last time, it was a little bit, I wasn't really 100% sure about the crop and post-processing, but I think now it looks really cool. It's almost like from different world, and it's a lovely capture. So technically, this one is well done. There is a lovely, it's a great time of the day. I think the exposure is well done. Everything looks sharp, although it's looking like it was kind of darker time of the day. You still have some sharpness, except maybe this one, but you have a details and sharpness on your boats. You have the lovely reflection coming into the water, and in overall, I think this is technically well done. Never mind the fact that capturing the storm and stuff is very complicated and well done on that. And this one as well, you have lots of details on the stones, lovely light, lovely time of the day, the exposure is well done. So technically I have not much I can add on both of them. Again, like last time, I think it's a little bit of a shame that the JPEG conversion, they come across a little bit blurry. And I think I told you that in the past, it's to do with the compression. I think, what's the size you send them? Can I see it here? 5000 on 3000. So it must be something with your setting, because this is a lovely picture, but when I really zoom in, you can see hopefully how much of artifacts it gives me. And same on this one. This one is worse. This one gives me lots of noise. So maybe just check it out to make sure that you're sharing the best you can, Stevie. Artistically, brilliant. Out of the two, I like this one. I think this one would be probably a little bit more complicated because of all the lights. I think composition wise, it's a lovely composition. Coming back to the composition, when I was talking about 2/3 of the sky, 1/3 of the ground, this is pretty much it. The message is clear. It's just beautiful. I think nothing to add. On this one, really lovely leading line. Again, a lovely composition with the 1/3 pretty much of land and 2/3 of the sky. A really nice balance, beautiful capture. Love it. So both of them technically well done. Post-processing, I wouldn't add here much. I think the drama is really nicely touched with really nice kind of contrast. I think the white balance is, I prefer the white balance on this one because it kind of keeps it all the way through, where here you get that kind of blue and then it becomes purple. So it's on a little edge of unrealistic, but I think both of them are stunning. And to be honest, when I do the overall rating, I think this is the first time when I'm going to give you 4 stars. I think these are definitely pictures that are ready to be added to your portfolio and start to be shown to your customers, friends, and other people. I think it's a great work, well done. And I hope to see more pictures from you in the future. Stevie, if you have a moment, make sure you join us at the Facebook, on our new Facebook group, Clever Photographer Academy. We would love to have people like you there to share some knowledge with us and share your photos. Definitely come and join us and send us more pictures in the future. Next photos going to be from Sue Langabir. Sue, you sent us picture last week, and I'm really excited and happy to see you coming back. It's always joy to see your photos and to see how you moving forward. And this week we have 2 pictures from you, so let's have a look at them. So we have this boat on the beach with the kind of little pebbles in the front. And then we have this really cute house. And remind me, Sue, what you shooting with? Panasonic. I think we were already looking at the camera. But anyway, in overall, let's go for the first impression. Love this one. A really cute composition. Lovely house. I actually, for this picture, don't mind that it's kind of blue sky. Nicely done here. This one, I get what you're trying to do, but I think your foreground element is a little bit too big, and I also think you're a little bit too low. So if you would be a little bit higher and there will be less of the pebbles, I think it would be a little bit interesting. Now, when I look at this picture, the first thing I'm going into the stone, and then my kind of viewing point is the boat, which is upside down, but I don't see inside of them, so they come across really flat. And then I only get a little bit of the town. So I think if you would get a little bit higher, and I don't know, you would have to try half a meter, maybe, you know, sometimes we go really low, then we need to go kind of waist height, and then we go standing and see what works the best. And quite often we need to take that picture, bring it to the computer and see how that works in order to be able to do something with it. So lovely capture, but out of the 2, I prefer this one, and this one mostly because of the actual height of the camera, but it's still a cute scene. Technically, this one, the foreground is sharp, background is sharp, with f5.0. You can see all the background as well, so it's quite nicely done. The composition is right. It's not the best time of the day. What was the time? It looks like 12:30. I think that's a little bit early for the photos. You know me, I prefer something more towards the sunset, sunrise, maybe at least in the afternoon when the shadows are not as heavy and you get a little bit less contrast and more better light. But that's it. Otherwise, I think technically it's really well done on this one. So technically it's well done. Again, this is example of something which probably have to be there in order to capture this picture, so I don't mind it. However, reminder of the strong, confusing foreground element, and that's this tree, and usually it's a trees, lamppost, cars, people, buildings, something what's at the picture, and unless you haven't been there, it's a bit confusing, it's taking away the attention and the clear message, and that's this tree here. But it's there, and I understand that maybe it would not be possible to capture otherwise, so don't worry about it. I also can see a little bit of the artifacts in the actual sky. And again, like last week, try to see if there is a way you could send us the pictures in a better quality, because I think you lose a fair bit of points based on the quality they come across. 1920 on 1440 is not enough, because yeah, it's just losing some details on the sky. But technically, otherwise, the composition is good, the exposure is right. I think the light is right, everything is sharp, so well done on that. Moving on, the artistic feel. So this house is lovely. I think it's leaning a little bit, so I don't know what you're editing in, but always look for some like a straightening function. So in Lightroom, it's down here in geometry, and you just go to auto, and yep, you see that usually does the job very easily. But it's really nice. The house is kind of main message. I think the message is really clear. It's a cute composition with the grass and everything, so nothing wrong, and it's very, very lovely. On this one, I think I mostly touched already in the first impression. It's a lovely seaside kind of feel village. I would definitely go back there if I would be you, but try. So obviously moving around the camera is the one thing so I arrive at the scene or location I like. First thing I do when it's a house, building, anything, I work all around it, 360 degrees. I take my time to walk around and find one or two, sometimes it's one, sometimes it's 5 spots I really like to photograph it in. And once I get to these spots, then the next thing I always do is to take a picture. My waist height, eye height, and then really low. And sometimes if I don't want to take my camera out, and if I'm not sure, I just use a mobile phone, I just set it up, and take 3 pictures quickly, and I'm able to say right away, yes, I like this one, I don't like. So that would be my suggestion for you for the future. Otherwise, it has a lovely feel, although again, I think the foreground is a bit too strong, and I think you're a bit too low. Moving on the post-processing, nothing really to add. I think the brightness is right. I think we have a noise in the sky, which again, coming back to send us the best quality you can, because that will really help. I don't know if we could do maybe a little bit of a vignetting just to kind of close the picture. Let's see. Something like this. Yeah, I think the white balance seems to be quite all right. Let's have a look if we get any better suggestion. Not really, then it becomes too yellow. So I think originally it's quite nicely done. Again, I think it leaning a little bit towards one side. So definitely the geometry would be something you should look at. So then you get something a little bit stronger. And let's see if we could just get the boat kind of in the middle. And maybe something like this. That much. Just like this would be, again, something to look at. You could at the same time cut a little bit of the pebbles and get somewhere here, and it's maybe starting to be a little bit more interesting. Moving on this one, not much I would do here, to be honest, when it comes to post-processing. I think your exposure is right, your shadows and highlights are right, your white balance is right, it has the right amount of vibrance and saturation. I think there is lovely contrast in it, so well done. So for these 2 pictures today, because of this one, again, I'm going to give you 3, well on track, but keep, I think it's a composition now for you. And it's really taking your time, or take as many pictures and then choose the right one. So there are 2 ways you can do this. One is to take your time and walk around and look for the best spot and then capture just few pictures. Another one, which some cases is me, is to go and basically capture lots of photos And then it's really up to you to be able to recognize the good one when you back home. So 2 ways you can do it. So if you want, make sure you join us at Clever Photographer Academy group on Facebook. We're just starting and we would love to have you here. And even more importantly, make sure you send us more pictures in the future so we can review them for you. Finally, our last landscape photographer, Yaniv, we have 4 pictures from you. And we're gonna end it up on there. So let's jump straight into them. So we have 4 pictures and let's have a look at them and let's talk about first impression. So right away, this one, absolutely love. Great long exposure, really nicely done, although it's tilting a little bit, nice one balance. As I say, recently, I really enjoy quiet, kind of straightforward messages and compositions, and I think this definitely adds to it. This one I quite like. I think it's nice, lonely tree, but I think it would help if you would have stepped back just a little bit to get a little bit more space around them. Lonely trees evoke in us the feeling of a freedom and feeling of wilderness and being able to be out. And quite often when we go too tight on them, it's losing that feeling. So although I think lonely trees are perfect subject and I love to photograph them, when you go really tight, it's losing the interest a little bit. So that's just for the lonely tree. This is also a lovely capture, although it looks to me like there was maybe some sky replacement done here because the white balance of the foreground and middle ground doesn't really follows the sky that much. I could be wrong, but that's the first feeling I get. Also, there is a light hitting the picture from this side, and on this picture it looks like the sun is somewhere here, so I'm not 100% sure about this one. And finally this one, I'm not crazy about the composition. I think there is something missing here on the bottom, which could be some kind of ground. I think the trees completely take away from the scenes behind and it's a little bit confusing. So okay, let's talk, because we always do 2 pictures, 2-3 pictures. So let's talk about this one. First of all, technically well captured. Let's see if we can see. So using Nikon D5300 video 10-20, so really nice and wide lens, 8-second exposure, which is stunning, and really nice leading line here. It looks like everything is sharp here, nothing is overexposed. It's the right time of the day, nothing to add on technical point of view on this one. Let's talk about the tree. The tree looks all sharp as well, same camera, same lens. Also because it's really nice and big picture, it's really nice that we're able to see the details. So well done on sharing that with us. Let's see, it's all good to me. So technically, yeah, right time of the day, lovely light, all is sharp. Well done on that one. And okay, let's talk about this one as well. This one we'll leave for next time. It's an interesting composition. I think everything is sharp. I'm not sure about the light. It looks on this time here, it looks like it was 12:52, so which is a midday, and then you have the sunset sky on it. And it's not because I can see the time that I can tell you that there probably was the sky replacement. It's mostly because, again, sun is coming from this side. I think there is this really harsh midday sun of a scene where probably there was a blue sky, and then suddenly there is this background sky with the sunset, wild, dramatic sunset. And I think it's important to remember, sky replacements is definitely something what's here, and it's here to stay when it comes to landscape and many other photography styles. And I have no problem with it as long as it's done right. So I think if it's meant to stay here, which I have no problem with, because many of us been at the locations which cost us fortune to get, and then you get there and you have no time or money to get there over and over again. We want to get the best out of it, but we can plan to be there at the right time of the year, and it still doesn't work out. So then, of course, go ahead and replace the sky, but you cannot take a midday picture and replace it with the sunset sky. 99% it's not going to work, and it's going to be visible. And then again, so you have to find the right scene to do the sky replacement. Then you have to find the right sky, and the right sky meaning with it has to bring the light from the right side of the picture. It has to kind of follow a little bit of the white balance of the picture, and it has to kind of follow the overall feel of the picture. So for example, if there was a, if I come back to it, if there was like a blue sky, just blue sky, you can replace it with the blue sky with clouds. Or you could replace it with really kind of dramatic midday sky, like a gray with lots of clouds, and then maybe turn it black and white. But you cannot replace it with sunset sky. You couldn't replace it with moon, because obviously this is visibly captured during the day and so on. So just kind of that. Moving on, artistic feel. So again, I really like it. Huge fan of lonely trees. I would just go a little bit behind. I would try to capture it with this little bit of a space around, knowing the fact that lonely trees generally liked by humans because of their freedom and wilderness, and you making it really tight around. So even though it's a lovely picture and a lovely capture, I would look for a little bit more space around. But the sky works really well here, and the picture is lovely, and it just works really nicely here. This one, really nice leading line. I think the picture is tilting on one side a little, and actually to come back, I see little sensor dust here, which can be removed really easily. We'll do that in the post-processing. But out of all of your pictures, this one is my favorite. Really lovely capture. Moving on this one, so composition-wise, there is a lovely reflection, which I really like, but I think the picture is touch imbalance. So obviously you have this rock and really massive grass, and then there is not much happening here. Also, if you would have used a little bit longer exposure than 1100 of a second, you could have the water a little bit more smooth and flat, and there would be even more reflection in it. So not crazy about this one that much. I think those two are our winners. So Yaniv, then post-processing, let's have a look at it. So obviously, again, I think it could be straightened a little better, and that can be simply done in a geometry here of an auto, and right away we get something like this. I think also the crop could be a little bit tighter, and if we want to keep the panoramatic feel, I would probably go for something like this. You don't have to, it's just what I would do, or maybe like this. Still, otherwise, a really lovely picture. On this one, post-processing, I think the white balance is right. I think everything is good here. You don't need to do any vignetting, so well done. Yaniv, in overall, if I would have to judge just those two pictures, I would give you 4 stars. But when I take all the pictures together, I'm gonna have you 3 stars this week, because you're super well on track. And again, like some of the photographers before today, for you, the main key is the consistency. When you're a photographer and you're able to create something like this and create such a beautiful image, and then the next thing you create something like this, there is the imbalance in you understanding the kind of composition and overall feel of the photo and artistic feel of the photo. So that's just something what you need to keep on doing, keep on shooting, doing more and more. Make sure you're sharing your photos with others, get some feedback, and you will definitely get there. But those two, very lovely, and thank you so much for sending them over. Definitely, Yaniv, if you want, join us at Clever Photographer Academy on Facebook. It's a new group where we're just starting, and we're gonna do some reviews throughout the week, and hopefully help lots of photographers like you. And even more importantly, make sure you send us more pictures in the future, because we can't wait to see them. And the same goes for all of you guys. Please make sure that you like, subscribe, and comment on our videos, so we can make more of them here on YouTube or on Facebook. And if you want to join us, make sure you head to our website, cleverphotographer.com/review. And that's the place where you can find all the dates for the upcoming shows. You can find the links where you can upload your photos, and you can find even more information about what we're trying to do here at Clever Photographers. Well guys, keep shooting, and I can't wait to see you again next week.